Okay. Hey guys, how are we all tonight? Thanks for being patient and having me back online. Just fix up my camera. All right. How are we all tonight? I hope you're all great. Yeah, so let's get cracking along. So basically, guys, I did hear your feedback like I did say in my live last night, and I understand that you want a bit more basic information, which is great. I do enjoy some feedback, so I'm really looking forward to showing what I'm going to go through tonight. So each Tuesday, at least for the next few weeks anyway, I'm going to go through, I suppose you could call it some case studies, but what it is, it's real client scenarios. So at the end of the day, what I've done is I've taken some scenarios from clients and this is a specific client, their scenario and what I structured them for and what we did to move forward with as well. So you can see the outcomes that what I suggest here at the Property Blog for people to get together, what they have to do, and it's not that difficult. And I'm going to show you here tonight, we did a big change with these clients. These are one of the biggest changes I've done for just a simple structure with low risk, low stress, everything going forward. So guys, what I'm going to do is just wait for a couple more people to pop on the live. Like every live I do, feel free, please ask questions in the comments. I can see my comments here on this second screen over here. Please ask questions. If I see the question, I'll definitely answer it if I can. But of course, at the end, we'll have question time as well, like every other live we do. And more importantly, if you see value out of what I'm talking about tonight, I would love it if you shared it or tagged one of your friends in there as well. But if you believe someone else can make do with what I'm putting together tonight, or you think it refers to someone you might know, and they can get ahead financially just by what I'm showing them, please pop the video into their timeline so they can see it for themselves and make some positive outcomes for them. All right, guys. So I'm going to share my screen, and I have a little bit of a different setup here too, guys. So if I lose you, bear with me. It's a new setup. I haven't used it yet. I've had a few test runs. It all went well with the test runs, but as you know, when you're live, nothing normally goes to plan. So, but I'm going to start with some boring stuff first, guys. So let's just quickly share my screen here. So that's tonight's live, of course. All right. So I do like to make sure we've got the disclaimer. So the disclaimer is everything I'm talking about tonight is not generic, is general information, sorry. It's not to your own circumstances, so please get independent advice on your own circumstances before taking anything I'm doing tonight to put together in your own financial situation. Now, of course, you can always contact us, but to get some advice, but definitely seek advice before taking any steps forward. This is just to get your mind working, to see what you can and can't do. All right, so let's get started. So this is the scenario. Now, just remember as well, guys, I've changed the industry they work in, and I've also changed their names because I do not want people to know who I'm talking about. That is not what I'm trying to achieve here. Okay, so what we do first when we sit down is look at their needs, objectives, and some goals, right? So with Jeff and Sarah, this is Jeff and Sarah in this scenario. These guys live in, let me think, Brisbane. These guys live in Brisbane. They're 45 and 42 years of age. Sorry, I forgot where they live for a sec. Jeff's a full-time police officer, and Sarah is also full-time, and she's in a personal assistant role on about 90 grand, where Jeff's on about 120 grand. They've still got a home loan of 310 grand, which it's actually supposed to say 320. Sorry, it's just say 320,000, which they would like to have paid off by the ages of 63 and 60. So these guys know they've got a decent mortgage. They don't have a lot of savings. They've got a little bit of personal debt as well. The kids are just at that age now where they're teenagers as well. I should have mentioned that in here also. And they also would like to retire at the ages of 63 and 60. So not just pay the mortgage off, but also retire. So what I'm going to go through here is, you know, a bit of a supplement income. I'm not going into a high risk. These guys were under what we call a conservative measure or a medium risk profile. So you don't want to go into too much risk if that doesn't suit your personality. The problem they have is currently they have 4 separate personal debts totaling $64,000. That's a problem in itself, guys. They haven't been great with money. I've given them some direction on some books to read, etc., that might help them educate them with some money. But this 64 grand is stopping them not only from a bank's perspective, but also mentally from investing in property to add capital to their superannuation in retirement. Their accountant actually has also advised them to incorporate a tax strategy to lower their tax each year, because they're currently paying 52 grand per year in tax within the household. So that's my job here. So my job here is to come forward and to come up with some ideas and concepts, all within my licensing requirements, to see if I can give these guys some ideas of what they can do. All right. Okay, so I'm back. So general information, that's their scenario. And now I'm going to shoot off and I'm going to answer their questions. So guys, I've got another camera set up. So I'm hoping this is going to work for me. I've got another camera set up here. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to change cameras. Hopefully you can see my notepad. There we go. Perfect. So guys, in this scenario here, this is what they had. These clients, when I met them, they're well, I think was 42 and 45, I think it was, wasn't it? Yeah, 45, 42. But the thing with these guys, they felt lost because all they were doing is pumping out money each month. They didn't have any savings plan. They had no savings structure. And they just really, honestly, they weren't educated fantastically with money either. That is half of it. You've got to educate yourself a little bit with money, needs versus wants. You don't need everything. You don't have to keep up with the Joneses, etc. If you want to make a difference in your life, and it's normally around that 45 to 42 years of age where you start to realize, shit, I've got 20 years left. I've been working 20, 30 years. I've got to really start to think about, how am I going to retire? How am I going to give up work? All righty, so let's hook in here. So you'll see here, guys, they've got a 320 grand mortgage, 9 Korean car loan. Sorry, I'll start again. 320 grand mortgage, it's at 3.1%. Now that's a bit high, that interest rate. So we're going to deal with that as well. 27 years to go. Now their monthly payment they're currently paying is $1,459 per month. Now their car loan's $9,000. They've had 2 years left. That's at 9%, $38,000, 7.5% at 4 years, and so on. So we let the credit cards, we just work on the basis of a 5-year term, because with a credit card, if you pay the minimum payment, you can possibly have to wait 20 years to 15 years. So I just did them over a 5-year period, but one had a 9% rate and one had a 15% rate. So overall, there's $384,000 here in total that they have in debt, whether it's on their home, whether it's on their cars, whether it's their credit cards or whatever. And the big one for me is their monthly spend on this debt. So when you add up all this here on the side, what you end up with is that these guys are literally forking out a ton of money, all right, a shit ton of money actually. So it's about $3,158 if my calculations are still true. And so what that is, these guys are basically paying $3,158 per month between all bad debt. This is all bad debt. Even your home loan is bad debt. So what I wanted to do is do some debt consolidation, look at some cash flow, and put in a bit of a strategy and a plan of attack for these guys to make a difference with their finances, but without like stressing them out financially, without stressing their cash flow structure out. So the first thing we did, right, is we took this $384,000, and what we did was, okay, let's look at a better structure, a better rate. I'm not going to talk about different banks because everyone's different. But with these guys, we were able to, so they'll still have that mortgage there. We're going to consolidate all that debt into $384,000. And we were able to get a rate of 2.7%. All right. So what that done is it brought their whole monthly payments down to $1,557, which is nothing, right? But the problem is, guys, I'm just going to stop sharing I'm going to change cameras back just quickly. Where are we? All right, big issue. These guys have 4 personal debts that they were going to pay off basically in the next 5 years if they were consistent and did everything on time. Now, the bank's going to say to me, listen, these are already over 5 years, but you have to realize, so the client has to realize in this situation that you are paying a credit card over 5 years. If you bundle these 4 debts into one home loan, so if you take your 5 debts in total into one big home loan, you'll, instead of paying off that car in 2 years or 4 years or whatever it was, you're now paying the car off over 30 years. All right, 30 years instead. So you've got to be careful of that if you do debt consolidation, because over the years, I've had scenarios where people have refinanced credit cards and a car, and then went out and bought another one. And sometimes that's not the best option, guys. We want to consolidate debt and make tracks or put together a roadmap to get you to 63 or 60 years of age in a better financial situation. Sorry, I'll change my camera back. Just wanted to make that one clear. You don't want to hide from that. That's a full fact. So what you got here is $1,557, but you were paying $3,158. So what I'm going to do now, guys, is I'm just going to pull another beautiful piece of paper across. So as you can see here, the biggest thing I wanted these guys to do was stick to these dollars, not this. This is false, because they were paying $1,459. They're only going up like $100 with a monthly cost. They're saving, almost $2,000 in all these stuff gone, but it's mentally wrong if you don't commit to this 3158. And I'm going to show you why in 2 seconds. So let me just get another piece of paper out. So this is what I do with my clients. I want to make sure they realize they've got to stick to a mental structure. All right, so we'll do the old home loan structure. So 384,000. And what we've got over here, this is our little home loan structure. So that's a 30-year loan. So option 1, we have a repayment of $1,557, but it's going to be 30 years of a time frame. So the problem with that, how old are they going to be? 75 years old. Now, if they live that long, which hopefully everyone does, but not everyone gets that lucky, great. But they've basically blown $2,000 a month that were paying out into personal debt, which now they can actually pay off their mortgage. So with option 2, and this is the structure, this is the first step. So this is when I talk about consolidate debt. This is what we're doing first. So what we're going to do is option 2 is they keep that same monthly repayment. Now, that same monthly repayment was $3,158. And what that does is it brings it down to only 12 years. So instead of it being 30 years, it brings it down to 12. That's a big step. All right. And if you think about it, they're 45, 12 on the 45 says the worst case. I think Jeff wanted to be 63 at the worst case. That puts him at 57. So first goal, we've ticked that. They wanted to own their home by the time they were 50, by the time they were 63 and 60. So just by moving that money from one direction, consolidating debt and changing direction with the same cash flow, we're able to bring that home loan down to 12 years. Now, believe it or not, that's pretty well common sense. I'm going to be straight up with it. That's not hard to do. But what we wanted to do now is, okay, now we want to invest. We've got all this equity, because their home, I didn't mention that before, sorry, is around $800,000 their home was worth. So we've got, 400 plus equity there. We want to make do with that equity. We want to get a positive result. So this is what we're going to do. This is what we did do, sorry. What we're going to do is here, is the first house we're going to put in place is what we call a dual income home. So very heavy cash positive property. Oh, forgot the. Now with this property, it was $597,000, and it was getting $720 a week in rent. Right. Now with these dual income properties, that could be a dual key, could be a house granny flat, could be a different sort of structure. And what we've been able to do here is when you look at the figures of this property, so you got your rent coming in, and that is, here we go, 37,440. You have, but then you've got to take off the interest. So you've got interest on the loan, which is 17,910. I'm hoping you can read my writing here. Sorry, guys. And then also you've got your expenses. Now your expenses were your things like your rates, insurances, property management fees, all this sort of stuff. But what it leaves in with is a net figure of $13,530, right? So this gives you $13,530 worth of cash flow. Now, with our steadfast method that we use here at the Property Bloke, what we did is, I'm just going to put a bit of a line here. Sorry, a bit of a dodgy line. What we did over here was put a house and land in place. Now, you've got your dual income, which is cash flow, house and land. With this also, in this scenario, because interest rates are a bit lower, it is also cash flow. But we use house and land for growth, dual income for cash flow. And with the house and land, the clients paid $660,000 and it gets rent of $550 per week. Okay, so same scenario, you get rent of $28,600, and then you also you've got to take off the interest once again, interest, which is $19,800, and also your property expenses, which is about $5,000 for a house. So the property expenses are slightly different from a house over a dual key. But in this scenario here, they're actually still receiving income of $3,800 per year. Okay, so $3,800 and $13,530. So in total, that's income of $17,330. Now that's cash flow. That's after rent and after expenses. Now, the next thing you're going to say to me is, Wayne, they're going to pay tax on that money. The accountant said, lower your tax. Do not increase your tax. So this is where, in this scenario, they've gone with brand new. Now, for those of you who've been following me for a while, we love the word depreciation. Now, depreciation on these two properties is, this is minimum depreciation in year one, is $16,000 for the dual key, and then it's about $13,000 for the house in most cases, right? So that's $29,000 worth of depreciation, which basically means you've got $11,670 worth of depreciation left over to claim on your personal tax. So even though tax should not be your main motivator, even though your tax saving or tax benefit should not be your main motivator by property, you should always have a planned tax strategy. You should have a planned tax strategy before you buy, and you should have a planned tax strategy before you sell. So obviously the one before you sell is capital gains tax. The one before you buy is income tax or tax generated from the incomes generated from the property. So if you are on a 30% tax rate, what that is here, in a nutshell, is these guys are going to save around $3,501 in tax as well. Even though it's not a huge tax saving, the big picture I want you to focus on here is this $17,000 worth of income, okay? That's the big picture we're going to do with this. So these clients have gone out, they've consolidated their debt, they've brought their home loan down to 12 years from 30. So they've ticked the first box. Now, the second box is we want to produce more, obviously pay the home loan off sooner and produce more cash flow in retirement. So this here is basically valued around about $1,440 per month, okay? So what we do in this scenario, in option 3, so look at option 3 with the home loan, because when they've bought these two properties, they've got nearly $1,500 per month left over, and I don't want them to waste it. And we do all this by scheduled transfer, guys. We do not let you, you can do whatever you want. Sorry, I should correct myself there. But what I want to do is I show you how to set everything up. Set and forget is my motto. Set and forget. If you set this up with your banking, you can then also pay your home loan even quicker. So what we're going to do is we're going to increase. So option 3, this is what we want. Option 3, we're going to add this 1444 to this figure here, right? And that's going to give us $4,602 per month to pay off their 384 grand mortgage. Now that's going to pay the house off in 8 years. It's actually slightly under, but I'm going to leave it at 8. All right, so 8 years. So what we've been able to do, when I met these clients, they were lost, all right? They felt lost. They're sort of thinking in their mind, they're still going to have a mortgage in retirement when I met these guys. They're going to have to use their super to pay off their mortgage. That was their words. But what I've been able to do is I've been able to get them to buy 2 properties, consolidate debt, and pay their mortgage off in 8 years. Now, that to me was a fantastic outcome for these clients. Now, but it keeps continuing on from there. So 8 years, fantastic. We've still got 10 years left before retirement. All right. So we've got these 2 properties and we've still got 10 years left. So if you look at it from this perspective, right, once your home loan's paid off, so the home loan's gone, right? Gone, 100%, 10 years down the track. Jeff's 55, Sarah's 42. Basically what we have next is this $4,602 can go into a savings account. I'm just going to make it nice and easy. Savings account, which we could use as an offset account against one of these 2 properties. But with this savings account, over each year, it's around $55,000, right? So after 10 years, they're going to have an additional $550,000 in cash. Okay, that's a big one. So we've got home loan, 8 years. Oh, so I'm going to change textures. It's getting a bit messy. I do get messy. I'm sorry, guys. 8 years, paid the mortgage off. And we've had 550 grand in cash. And if you think about it, if they just keep these 2 properties, they still have, on top of that, still have this income coming in, worst case scenario as well, coming in to supplement their income with their super. All right, guys. Hang on, I'm going to stop sharing my screen. Oh, no, hang on, different camera. Sorry, guys. Told you, new technology. Oh, I'm back. All right, so what we've done here, we have bought 2 investment, only 2 properties. Okay, just 2. That's all we've bought. And you've got your dual key property here, your house and land property here. Now, in 18 years in the Australian property market, you would expect these properties to also rise in value. I have not taken that into account in this scenario. That is what we call an added bonus. But if the house and land property jumps up enough in 18 years, you may be in a position where you can sell that property and pay off the other one. Everyone says, I should have bought the house next door when I bought this house, because they normally will rise in value over an 18-year period. And of course, right now we're seeing a massive increase in some areas. So house and land, you could pay it off that dual income property, and then you got that rental income. Like at the moment, it's $720 a week. Who knows what it's going to be in 18 years' time? You've got that rental income for the rest of your life, on top of your superannuation and your 550 grand cash. And this is what we call a very conservative approach to property investment. It's for a passive investor, not an active investor or professional investor. This is for a passive investor. So with these guys, they built both these properties. They did nothing whatsoever. We organized everything. We put everything together. They built them and set them up running. And this is the outcome they're going to see in 18 years' time at a minimum. Okay. So in a nutshell, guys, what have we done here? What have we been able to achieve out of this scenario? First things is we use the existing cash flow platform they were already using. So whatever their cash flow was, they were surviving comfortably, but they weren't saving money. So on the existing cash flow platform, we're able to create this. We haven't said, you've got to put in another $1,000 a week or month or year, whatever. That's the first thing we've done. We've used equity in their home. So they haven't had to save for a deposit. We've just used the equity they've already got. Everyone doesn't realize what the equity is worth. Well, I would call it a low risk property strategy, just buying 2 properties. You could imagine, this is just going off, getting distracted, I'm sorry. But under that method of a dual key and a house and land, for example, it's what we call the steadfast method. They both pay for each other. And in this scenario, they give good, strong income, right? You could, long term, just keep putting that together and get a much better outcome. But I wanted to show you guys, this is what we call a low risk strategy. Okay, paid off the home in 8 years. They supplemented their retirement income. Now, he's been a police officer since he was 20. So he's going to have a decent super fund. And with Sarah as well, she did have some time off with the kids, but her super fund wasn't too bad either. So super I don't account for, that's retirement. If you get there, that's retirement. So they had super, they got the home paid off, they've possibly got capital in the investment portfolio as well, cash in the bank. Now, in the scenario I did here for these guys, I did not rely on the properties getting growth. I did not rely on the capital growth of the properties. You may have noticed that. That is what I call an added bonus. That's a side effect of doing what you're doing. So if you get 100 grand growth, 100,000 capital growth, or $1 million capital growth, that is added bonus on the top of the strategy we're already putting together. And basically two things. We've added income to their life and to their household. It might not go to plan exactly like this. They may have to adjust under different things because everyone have different life events. There could have been a sickness, a death. There could be an inheritance, could be a divorce, anything. And the biggest thing here is I haven't made their tax strategy worse. So I communicated with their accountant. I checked with him. Is this going to work for these guys? He agreed. And this tax strategy is one, going to save them a little bit of tax and also not make their tax strategy worse because of the depreciation on those investment properties. Now, over 18 years, there will be probably a little bit of tax paid on that rental income as the depreciation wears off, but they'll own their home and it'll all come together nice and fancy because I didn't even increase the rent in this scenario. So over time, the rent will go up, so their cash flow is bigger and so on and so on. So I've used conservative figures and been able to get these guys across the line very comfortably. And they thought they were going to retire with the mortgage. Alrighty. So that's about it for me, guys, on that one. Sorry, my phone died. Bear with me, guys. All right. No, nothing at this point. So what we've got is Jess has put in the Calendly link in our comment section there. So guys, if you have any specific questions to yourself, you can book a free 15-minute call just using that link in the comments. And like I said before, if in the event you think a friend of yours could value this, or it could be a family member, could be a father, could be a daughter, could be a brother, please share it to them, tag them in it, and see how we go. But next week, I'm going to go through another structure we did for somebody else. This is much more easier for me to put together for you guys. And on top of that, it's really what you relate to. This is what people want to know. So thanks again, guys. I'm Wayne, the Property Bloke. Have a great one, and I look forward to seeing you next week.